We're recording.
Okay.
Hey, we're a little early today. Um, Today I've got Ana Gibson with me, and Anna has been doing a whole lot of just internal work that I have a great deal of respect for. Um, there, there's such an immense gratitude for you and the work that you're doing, Anna.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What led you to Buddhism?
All right. So I I guess Buddhism is more like an experience
Yeah.
to me. Like I remember being like 8 years old and just like looking at the snow settle on a branch, a small branch. We had a bush outside of our in our out on the right of our driveway,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it was like my everything quieted.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this experience in college too, which is nuts.
Yeah.
And it was like everything quieted and it was just perfect peace and there was nothing else. And
Wow.
I was just fully taken in by the snowflake. I was 8 years old, dude. Like,
Oh
and I
wow.
had this experience. Now, when I was 10 years old, 12 years old, I started looking into other religions and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
10 was around the time I started to look into occultism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Occultism.
Mm-hmm.
Gradually slid into darker sorts of magic by the time I was like 15, 16. It felt almost, it just got darker and darker,
Yeah.
but it was like Dharma was always there. And not saying that there's anything wrong with darker paths. For some
Mm-hmm.
people, they take to it like a fish in water and it's perfect for them.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it was destroying me because
Oh
that's not
wow.
who I am
Gotcha.
on an authentic level. And we talk a lot about gene keys, which is
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
phenomenal modality
Yeah. The
and how
literal
all
key to full authenticity, man. Holy cow.
yeah, yeah. So that was what I was doing, not dealing with my shit. I created these insane thought forms, just born from my own pain and sadness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and anger and hurt, like literally they have names. They're thought forms with songs
Yeah.
and emotions attached and memories that were deliberately planted there.
Yeah.
um yeah, it's really it was really a journey. I was in a very dark place, and about I would say about 14 is when I started telling people I was Buddhist, like even
Mm.
over Christian, which is insane because in the
Yeah.
Black community, like 86% of us, I think, are Protestant. Um, and just, I guess, getting into this darker stuff, and it was nuts because one of the first encounters I had with Buddhism was about just unhinged mentor, just fucking unhinged, horrible human being.
Yeah.
Um, and he looked at me and he's just said Mu, M-U, like, and that's
Mm.
a koan.
Anunnaki. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a koan in Zen Buddhism as well.
Mm-hmm.
So my head exploded because I didn't know what a koan was. So I was just reading until finally I came across, like, something that can explain that. And I started reading about Zen Buddhism and then Theravada
Yeah.
Buddhism. And then, Vajrayana comes a little bit down the line, or a
Mm-hmm.
lot of bit down the line, until my 30s or so. But um I was just looking around and then I started telling everybody I was Buddhist by the time I was in high school. But, you know, that was hard. You know what I'm saying? Like that was can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. That was it was just tough because everybody around you just sort of accepts the religion of the people around them. So when you come back with
Yeah.
something different, you're in fucking middle school. Like, what do you know? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, you only know
high school,
you only have the example of your parents for the
yeah,
first God knows how many years of your life. It depends
yeah,
on when the parents want to send you to school. And that's the
yeah,
only thing you know is
yeah,
your parents and anybody else they let into that house.
Yeah, man.
And some really, really messed up mechanics can happen with that.
Yep. Yeah, it can get weird, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so just trying to sorry, hold on. Trying to trying to
Yeah, I've
come
got
to
it shifted
terms
my
with
camera
that.
too. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, here we go. Am I gonna get the humidifier? Oh, too much humidifier. All right, go ahead.
It's too much. Yeah, man. Like, I was into so much dark shit. I was calling myself a Satanist, but
Yeah.
it's crazy because my mentor was a Satanist, but he's the one who brought me to Buddhism. Which, I mean, you
It's not
know,
as odd as that's not as odd as you would think. It's immense how many people will go down a really dark path. I mean, look at Saint Cyprian.
yeah,
When Saint Cyprian came up against Justina,
yep,
she rebuked everything he had, and at that point he said, "This Jesus cat has more power than any of the other stuff I got." And
hmm
I think people come out of a dark place and end up either wanting to kind of pay back for the energy they put in the world, or they want to heal themselves because they're
yeah,
in so much pain.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was insane to me at the time, you know. But when Dharma is one of those things that it finds you, you know what I mean? Whether
Yeah.
you're just intrigued by a post of the Dalai Lama that happened to be there, or you know, you're in a really dark place, but it's still somehow the Satanist manages to say one of the most popular koans in Zen
Mm-hmm.
Buddhism, which is a riddle that's meant to like break your mind apart completely, like
Yeah.
conceptualize all of that shit is done. Um, you know, and blew my head off without him being as like, it was just grace. There was a lot of
Yeah.
grace in that situation.
Sounds like the universe speaking in that moment
Yeah, for
through a
sure.
person that you would not expect.
Yeah. And maybe because my guard was down, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, at the time I was very receptive to him and what he had to say. So, you know, when he was bouncing around cultures and looking into that, I was looking into it too. He probably just came across Japan and, you know, was like, hey, I'm gonna show her something, you know. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very lucky that that happened. So I have jumped between schools of Buddhism for a very, very long time until I found my home recently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I first started, it was Zen. Remember the Moo dude, the guy who just like
Mm-hmm.
used Japanese Zen Buddhism and just blew my brains off like
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, and then later on, I had an encounter with some monks that came into my store from a Theravadan Buddhist Vihara temple.
Mm-hmm.
So the Theravadan Buddhists are known as the way of the elders. They're the people who had firsthand um, knowledge and the foresight and just were there to hear the Buddha speak in his original like him, because a lot of the later scriptures are um the later scriptures are like modernized in a way they're not supposed to really be.
Yeah.
um and now he's talking to gods and demigods and all the Buddhas, and there's originally only supposed to be one Buddha. Like, so it's really like going back to the foundation of Buddhism in a sense, if you want to study Theravada. Um,
Okay.
so I really appreciate that in that regard.
Now,
Um,
is it Japanese Buddhism?
um, actually, it originated in Sri Lanka, right?
Okay.
Like in India, and
Okay.
it's in a lot of South India, like all of that area in South India.
Okay. Because I know
Um,
that there's Thai Buddhism, and
yep,
you've got Chinese Buddhists, and
yep, yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, that spread from India, and you mostly see it in that southern region down there.
Gotcha.
Um, and I was interested in that. A few years later, I started to read about Tantra. Not like Neo Tantra, because Tantra isn't um in the classical context just about sex, right? There are things like Karma Mudra and Yabium and different modalities that I can't really talk about, but they exist.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and I started reading about these goddesses and these gods and all these fascinating Buddhas with these amazing qualities, like the five Dhyanic Buddhas. It's like typology. You know how like in ATRs, like Ifa, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
everyone has a an orisha, a head.
Well, Ifa is the cult of Arumila,
Okay.
and so it's Lukumi is
Look at me.
or Kariocha
Okay.
is the Orishas.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
But you get what I'm trying to say, right?
I
Everybody
do.
has like
Yeah, yeah.
a head, a type, a god that presides over them. The
Mm-hmm.
Dhyani Buddhas are a typology of people. They're actual Buddhas that watch over different realms and directions and energy. It's the way that a person expresses themselves.
Okay.
Um, these like conceptions of these Buddhas didn't exist in the earliest scriptures. They just weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the five Dhyani Buddhas are like Akshobhya, who he's up there.
Mm. Yeah, you're
He's
awesome.
with the Vajra, he's the biggest statue. He's
Yeah.
with the he's holding a Vajra.
Mm-hmm.
Akshobhya is holding a Vajra, and the Vajra is the indestructible quality of the mind and the Buddha nature and your true nature of goodness and peace and just bliss, right? That's the base of your existence.
Yeah.
So Tantra isn't really just about sex at all, even though that can be a part of it.
Yeah.
Um, you can spend your whole life doing Tantra and not touch anyone. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
it just not be a part of your journey, you know? Um, yeah. I just found it fascinating, the ceremonies, like the incantations, the mantras. 'Cause, I'm into esotericism and I've
The
been
whole
into it
ritual of it.
firsthand.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ritualistic, because with Zen, you're sitting down, you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at your hara, right? That section 3 inches below the navel.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh.
and you're just sitting there. Whoops. Hold on, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Uh Let me see if I can just yeah.
Phone's got
Okay.
to be ordinary.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, like, you know, in the north, Akshobhya, he's over the cold, he's over death, he's over winter, he's over the dead.
Mm-hmm.
Um and his quality, his antidote to the poison, because there's a poison
Mm-hmm.
in each Buddha family, and then there's an antidote, right? The,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So the antidote, his special quality is mirror like wisdom, and
Hmm.
um his poison is anger. And if you it kind of makes sense because a lot of Vajras tend to be um they tend to be very smart, they tend to be heady in their head a lot, cerebral, rational, right brain, like
Yeah,
that type
yeah,
of person.
yeah.
um and I'm a Vajra, if you like, that's a thing. You got the Padmas, who are all about compassion and love. So you got the Ratnas that are all about like money, and they have this richness and this abundance in their life, and it's you never had all these categories. So when I
Yeah,
saw that there was this diversity there, I was just in love. By then I had met my second teacher. At the time, we were doing, and I think this is around the time that I met you, we were doing a lot of work separately from the Tantra stuff that I was kind of reading about off on the side.
mm-hmm.
Um, he was very much a proponent of something called apotheosis, or attaining divinity, um, which isn't, it's not invalid at all. It's actually a completely valid path, but
Yeah,
um I was doing all of this, I think, religious and spiritual study. And this is why spiritual bypassing is so dangerous,
oh
right?
my gosh, yeah,
Like it's so easy to like read this book of scripture rather than deal with my shit and go to therapy, right? um
Yeah.
and oh my god, my neighbor's upstairs, dude, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
Where was
Things
I
are
at?
what they are. We live in an imperfect world. We're just trying to make it better.
Right. um where was I at? What were we talking about?
Um, I'm kind of high, so I think I lost track.
I was talking about Shobia Buddha
You were
and poison being anger, right?
yeah,
But
and you were I think you were talking about the different kinds of you had a Buddha that was compassion, or
yeah,
a
one that
path
was
of the
about
Buddha that was
love and
compassion, and then
compassion.
one that
Yeah.
was about abundance.
Yeah. One that's about action, like
Yeah.
always an activist, the people who, go where they need to go, the people who get things done. It's just these energies exist within all of us, but we all lean in different directions. So it's like there's things tailored specifically for you, and it's not like a one size fit all thing, which I really liked. Now,
Yeah.
wasn't dealing with my shit. Wasn't getting adequate therapy, was on medication, I'm bipolar or whatever. um but at the time I wasn't really taking it. um and spiritually bypassing, which is where I ended up last.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That
you
was a
know
hell of a realization too.
yeah, and I'm still prone to it. But yeah, I sat and I was just doing all sorts of stuff. I was lying to people about my abilities, saying that I was capable of this form of like um, uh, possession, trans possession,
Yeah.
um, where you're conscious but you're talking through them, and just being gross,
Yeah.
asking for nudes under the pretext of doing this, asking for, just having weird sexual like it was behavior that stemmed from me not looking into my own darkness and shame.
Yeah.
And I
I
just
got a
kind of,
therapeutic question.
hmm?
I got a therapeutic question.
Yeah.
What need did that fulfill for you? Did you ever figure that out?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially the sexual behavior.
Hmm.
It made me feel desired, even if the desire was not towards me, it was a force that they thought was coming through me. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you wake up all your life, when you are surrounded all your life by bullying, we talked briefly yesterday about
Yeah.
me being so like filled with self-loathing that I had issues looking in the mirror, right?
Man. Yeah. Yeah.
And we went a little bit further back, what I'm saying, with that, and with the bullying and the, a lot has happened. And it's really no excusing it. I did what I did. I ruined a friendship. I hurt a lot of people. um and sometimes in many ways I'm literally paying for it. But
We always do.
mhm.
We always do.
Oh yeah, the universe don't stop. It does
Hmm.
not. You don't get away with anything.
Hmm.
But I think it was the best thing that happened to me in my overarching journey, right?
Yeah.
Because I got started with Jason Miller. Jason Miller is like this really top
Mm.
tier occult author.
Oh,
Um,
yes, he is. I've taken his Hecate
yeah,
sorcery class
yeah,
and
I've
his
taken.
strategic sorcery class. He is locked down.
Yeah, dude. I
Yeah.
mean, he's a genius and very in tune with the spirits, which I appreciate. I took his Sorcery of the Purba class
I heard
because
about that
all
one.
of this, all the evil, dark embodiment bag thing I had going on back then,
Yeah.
all of that, it just came out. It spewed out. They were like, you need to clear our names because we defended you. When you needed to be defended. And I agreed, and I just came out with it, and it was like boom, 300 people off your friends list, boom, several people making videos, boom, now your best friend making, like, it was just,
Yeah.
it was really people were livid with me, and these were a lot of occultists that were livid with me. But like,
We all fuck up. We
yeah,
all fuck up. And sometimes it's spectacular.
Yeah, it
and
was pretty intense.
the
Jada, it
true
was,
sign, the
yeah.
true sign of a generous, kind soul
Mhm.
is when you're able to go, I fucked up, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna reorient, and you did that, and it was beautiful to watch,
Hmm.
you
Thank you.
know.
Yeah, it was kind of like a scare straight deal. Not everything worked out in the end. I
Yeah.
ended up moving out of my parents' house, got a really good job as a content writer for a marketing firm.
Wow.
Um, I'm still out of my parents' house. I have a lakefront property,
Nice.
yeah, I'm doing really well.
That's
I'm in
outstanding.
therapy, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, but that also pushed me to Vajrayana, which is the ritualistic sorceress side
Yeah.
of Buddhism. Because I've always been into esotericism, but you know, I'm just starting to get back into sorcery from a Buddhist perspective.
Hmm.
Um, and it's been super enriching seeing a Buddha and knowing which one best reflects you. Like, what's your head? You know what I mean? Like, what's
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
who are you closest with? Like, I know who I'm closest with. Um, but like, you know, it's been really enriching,
Hmm.
and I've learned a lot about compassion, especially self-compassion, which is extremely important, especially
Oh,
in
and
a
it's hard.
situation like that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough,
Hmm.
but learning about compassion for myself, for others, patience, things like that.
Yeah. I do I kind of do ceremony for the Thai Buddha that
Mhm.
I picked up when I was in Bangkok, and I
Mhm.
have a little shelf in the in the foyer, and I light a
Mhm.
candle, and I go ahead and light incense, and I ask the Buddha to teach me compassion for myself and for others.
Yeah.
And it's always a lot easier to have compassion for others than it is,
Mhm.
or than it, I mean, it's getting easier, but just starting out, it's a
Yeah,
task.
it's tough. Yeah,
It's a
it's tough.
task.
It's still a task. We spoke about this yesterday, but I still have trouble looking in the mirror, and
Yeah.
you give me a few resources that I really appreciate it. But yeah, it can be super tough
Yeah. What
trying.
aspects of your path are you allowed to talk about?
Um, I try to talk as little as possible.
Okay.
Um, just because that's not always the line. The line isn't always clear. You know.
Yeah.
You basically are just embodying a deity in your daily life. You see yourself as them, whichever one you were initiated into, or your teacher, your guru thought to give you, and you try to embody the qualities of that Buddha. You visualize yourself as that Buddha. You walk and talk and see yourself like, and what gradually happens is a form of apotheosis, I'll say,
Mm.
or divinization. It chips away at your humanity until you just become this being of light, like a Buddha yourself.
Yeah.
And what you're really doing is unveiling your true nature. But you're divinizing yourself over time, in the fire of compassion. You're forming this luminous body, this luminous being. So
Yeah. Well, that kind of brings me back to the conversation we had yesterday, where that entity had said that Earth is the forge on which the soul is struck.
yeah.
And so you've got, the forge or the anvil, and it sounds like, there's a similar thing going on for you.
Yeah, yeah, man. Like, and all right, I guess right now, my challenge is going back to my foundation practices. Um, because I was having issues. It's crazy, and I don't know if you saw this status, but I was complaining because I was having issues with psychic response.
Mm.
I had a really bad toothache, and it was like my tooth was killing me. So one of my friends was like, "Hey, I'll extract the pain from you," because he's a pain eater, some type of weird esotericist that
Man,
eats
they should be
pain.
doing big business, man. There's a
Right.
lot of pain out there.
The what?
Just sit on the side of the road and be like,
Right. It's a vacuum.
man.
Dude, and he was like, I
Mm.
can just eat and metabolize it and use it and feel a spell from it. Like, it's no big deal. So I was like, sure, I'll give my spirits consent or whatever.
Yeah.
So what often happens when you're practicing sadhana or your meditative ritual over time, it's sort of like a flower. You plant the
Mm.
seed, that's the initiation, that's when the deity is inside you, and you start to cultivate that seed into a flower. So you water it, you do mantras, you do rituals, and you make sure it gets the oxygen and the soil and the nutrients it needs, like the water, and you gradually grow your relationship with this being, and you start to
Okay.
become like them. And these beings, these Buddha figures, are the body of truth, right? The truth
Mhm.
body, the Dharmakaya is what we call it in Tibetan Buddhism. And we talk about authenticity all the time. So, like, imagine being just a walking body of truth, the
Mm.
embodiment of pure consciousness and truth.
Yeah,
Um,
that's got to be uncomfortable for literally every person you
every
come across. Ooh, because
exactly,
people don't like truth.
yeah, yeah. So, but
People
that's
run
what's
from that
called.
shit.
That's what's called. It's called the truth body, and then you have the enjoyment
Yeah.
body, which is the Sambhogakaya. That's like the actual form. So you have forms of the Buddha, like
Mhm.
White Tara. She's
Yeah.
a goddess who was born from the tears of the Buddha of compassion, Avalokiteshvara. She was created as a healing goddess, so she heals all ills. She strengthens, she grants immortality and longevity. Um, and she is a pacification deity, so she's very much soft, gentle, appeasing, open, receptive deity.
Mhm.
um People say her 21 praises to Tara all the time. um Before I knew that you had to get transmission for that particular practice to say the prayer, I used to say it, and because she's associated with healing, I used to say it, and at one point I said it, and after I paid homage to the first Tara, my back pain disappeared. I couldn't walk to the kitchen without pain, and all of a sudden I could just walk a mile, you know.
Nice.
And little things like that would happen, like breadcrumbs and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so it was insane. So yeah, man, like, this is a journey. I don't know. It's a journey. I lost my
Yeah, I
train
get
of
that.
thought there.
No,
I
you're
feel
good. You're
hot.
good. I'm familiar. I'm familiar with green Tara.
Mhm.
Um, but how many Taras are there?
Oh my god. 21
Okay.
officially, but it's more. It's a
Yeah,
ton. It's secrets, and I'm sure there are more than 21.
I
But
get
yes,
that.
there's supposed to be 21, and each of them have a function. There's um Tara, who defeats all foes, Tara the terrible one, right? They're black, and they have blood drenched like tongues, and like yeah,
See,
they're
I
meant to
like Black
like,
Tara.
yeah, they're like meant to strike fear into the hearts of the enemies of the Dharma and the people who propagate it or follow it.
I was in a more of a warrior, I want to fight mentality for
Hmm.
most of my life. I was always just fucking furious.
Hmm.
And at some point, I was told that's not your job here. Your job is to heal, not to fight. And I fought
Yeah.
that. I fought that hard because it the idea of battle was very compelling for a
Yeah.
long time.
Mm.
And I used to have a lot of violent nightmares. I would be walking through fields of corpses of
Wow.
people that I had killed.
That's
Um,
fascinating.
and I'm not sure if this is like a necromantic influence or not, but I mean there was a lot of bodies on the ground.
Yeah.
And I remember I had a fire pit going, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of dead Vikings around, and they're like, "Oh yeah, all that fighting, all those dead people, yeah, it's us." I was like, "Oh,
Damn.
right." And so I was able to see it as something that was in my genetic code, but it wasn't my job this time around.
Yeah.
My job was to engage in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like there's a bunch of different aspects to Buddhism that cover a wide variety of the kind of paths that human beings lead.
Yeah. They say there are 84,000 doors to the Dharma. Like 80. Oh, damn. My phone is about to die. I should have foretold this. No. I'm about to just plug it up. It's fine. There is said to be like 84,000 paths to the Dharma, right?
Yeah.
And there's a path for each person, and there are Buddhas for each person as well. So
now I would imagine it's kind of essential that is this a situation where you choose as a being of as a timeless formless being, you decide to
yeah.
you decide to have corporeal form in this place,
Mm-hmm.
and you decide to follow a destiny.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the same thing in Buddhism?
Yes. Yes. I would say yes.
In Lukumi or Santeria, when we are in Ara Orun, when we're in heaven with our heavenly family,
Mm-hmm.
and we decide to become corporate or corporal again, we end up in a room full of many Eshus. And an Eshu or Elewa is the Orisha of the crossroads, the Orisha of
Yeah.
communication.
Yeah.
And you go to the destiny that Eshu holds. And you pick that, and you're like, that's the game I want.
Mm-hmm.
These are the mods, these are the costumes, this is the stuff. And then you come here, and Eshu goes pow and takes all of you away. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to figure out what you chose.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first found about that, I was just like, that's a motherfucker. That's not okay. But
Yeah.
but the further I get on this journey, the more I realize there's a purpose to it.
Yes. Everything has a purpose.
Yeah. And when you're not ready to understand the purpose, it seems stupid and just frustrating. And so it's easily dismissed.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people, life itself is, this place is not easy.
No.
You got bills, you got drama, between your friends, your family, the people you work with, the people who employ you. And then you got all this fucking nonsense that's happening all over the world with
Yeah.
authoritarian governments that are just rising and falling like the tides, because that's all they
Dominoes.
do.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the only thing authoritarian governments are good at: falling. That's it. Every single one falls.
Mm-hmm.
And we are. You don't realize how limited your experience of the world and your understanding of the world was until you're at a different perspective.
Yeah, man.
Would you say that your understanding of those perspective shifts is kind of a fairly consistent thing?
I don't know.
Like you lift, you have another understanding, and you're like, okay, I'm okay here, but then something else happens.
Oh
And now I
yeah,
got this
yeah.
different
I've seen
understanding,
that.
and it just constantly changes.
Yeah, it's a goalpost change. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And with directions you wouldn't even expect. Like, why am I going here?
Right?
You know?
Like, why am I in the middle of the Pennsylvania mountains at midnight under a full moon with chickens?
Right.
Like,
And a
on the
knife.
Appalachian Trail. The fuck?
Yeah, man. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
coming up in some really, really interesting situations.
Yeah.
Do you have a daily practice?
Yes. It's not really one I can discuss. But you know, it's just compassion and, you know, making sure that you see yourself, see the Buddha within yourself in everything that you do.
Okay.
You know, that's the best way that I can describe it without actually saying anything.
Yeah. It's, I remember yesterday, man, we talked about the gene keys a lot.
Yeah,
And that is 100% contemplative.
it is.
And that's a hard thing to get when you're reading a book. You want to read it and you're like, okay, I'm going to learn this and I'm going to integrate it and I'm going to do the shit out of this. And man, it's like Maxwell's silver hammer.
Mm,
Like every couple of paragraphs,
it's something new.
there's a phrase that just goes pow, and you're like, how the fuck did I not see that?
Yeah.
How did I not see how clearly that is reflected in the world?
Yeah.
And it's pretty much because we're born and then given a blindfold by our
Mm-hmm.
parents.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in the family has a different blindfold. And it all depends on what traumatic circumstance has visited them throughout the course of their life.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and it sounds like Buddha is kind of a way to pull that blindfold away to see the almost unbearable beauty of life.
Yes. That's exactly it. And as a matter of fact, like, you know, there are a lot of devotional, most elements of Buddhism is devotional, right? So people, a lot of people can't tell you what uh the eightfold path is, right? But
Yeah.
they know how to give offerings to the Buddhas. They know how to like bow to statues that have been
Yeah.
infused with the essence of the Buddhas, and you know, so they do that. And I think that's just
Is there a Buddhist temple that you visit in the
um
area?
I could go to Jewel Heart Center, and I've
Mhm.
considered doing so. Jewel Heart Center is a Galupa Buddhist center. There are 12 lineages in Tibetan Buddhism, 12 major lineages,
Okay.
and a few minor ones. And the Galupa is the one that's under the Dalai Lama, who is the head dude in charge, the lineage master of the tradition.
Okay.
And I can go there if I wanted to talk to people, but I just haven't. You know, I don't. I'm very much a homebody, and
I get that.
you know, interacting with people in general is it isn't a chore. I know everyone. I just got back from the neighbors and like had the best weed in my life.
Outstanding, man. I need to get out to Detroit. Shit.
Yeah. What are you waiting on? Um, but you know, I've never. I'm getting old, man.
Yeah, we are
You
not
know.
getting any younger.
I
Yeah. There's
just
oddly
want to
enough
take a nap.
there's a Thai Buddhist temple maybe 10 minutes
Yeah.
from the house.
Okay.
And I remember going and I had there was nobody there. I don't know if it was closed for the season or
Mhm.
it was just one of the days where it's not open, but it looked like they were just kind of getting it started.
Mhm.
And I had wanted to talk to one of the priests about the spirit house that I had bought many, many years ago at a at a thrift store and had given
Yeah.
to a friend of mine who was in a relationship with a Thai national. Um, and he took care of it for a while, and now it lives with me. And so I ended up talking to the gardener. And he was like, "Well, you talk to dead people, right?" Like, "Yeah, I talk to dead people." He's like, "Well, ask them what they want." I'm like, "Oh shit, I got this. Okay, no problem." So it the Thai culture is so fascinating because you have the addition of all the ghosts.
Yeah, man.
The ghosts that literally live in everything.
Yep.
It's a very vibrant thing. And I know that ghost culture is also very strong in China
Yeah.
and Korea and Japan, and you have the ghost festivals.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
does is Indian Buddha the kind of the same thing?
In Buddhism, yeah, we have something called hungry ghosts.
Hmm.
We have, I mean, we got Bhutas and ghosts for ghosts. We got dead people, but
Yeah.
species of dead people. But
Yeah. Can you
hungry
talk
ghosts.
about those?
Yeah, sure. To the best of my abilities, for sure.
Okay.
So like the hungry ghost in Buddhism is associated with one of six realms of existence, or six realms of samsara. So you have the hell realm, the hungry ghost realm. Some people put the demigod realm here, but I don't. I just say the animal realm, the human realm, demigod, and god realm.
Hmm.
Um, and human beings, we just go in an endless cycle through these different realms, and the idea is to get off the ride entirely. But
Yeah.
like, God, confound it. What was the question again? I lost my train of thought.
Talking about the kinds of um spirits
Spirits, yeah.
in Buddhism.
Yeah, so hungry ghosts have their own realm, and hungry ghosts are the people who have died due to greed. People who struggle with addiction tend to go there because
Mm.
it's a sickness, and hungry
Yeah.
ghosts find each other. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they'll meet a human with a lot of hungry ghost karma and be like, "Oh, that's one of the homies. Like, let me feed on his addiction." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like turn him into one of us. It's like,
Yeah.
so it can get really interesting. I got a divination from my lama, my previous lama, and he told me that I had a Buddha, an ancestral spirit, following me around. And Buddhism, Buddhas are beings that just look like us, you know, but
Mhm.
there's something wrong. Like a lot of Buddhas, for instance, levitate off the ground, or maybe their feet are facing the wrong direction, right? And
Interesting.
those little things show that it's a ghost.
I'm wondering if it's in Chinese culture. You've got, and I don't remember the Chinese name for it, but they are essentially Chinese hopping ghosts slash vampires. And
Mhm.
there was a whole, like, back in the 80s and the early 90s, there was like a whole slew of Mr. Vampire
Yeah.
comedy slapstick movies about people being buried wrong and then coming back as hopping Chinese ghosts.
Yeah.
And the priests would talk about how the energy quickens in the body, but you have the rigor mortis and the energy. They are full of rigor, so the only thing they can do is hop.
Yeah.
But they can also fly across the room and jam their nasty fingernails that are caked with dirt and blood into your neck and kill you.
Shit. Yeah. It's we have laws, which are gods. They're a class of beings. We don't believe that gods are immortal in Buddhism, but
Mhm.
laws are like literally just, Santa Muerte, Zeus, Yahweh. All of
Okay.
those are considered laws. LHA. I'm probably saying it wrong. I say everything wrong. Spoiler alert. So that's just a problem. Then you have the gods themselves and the asuras, or the demigods, who, you know, oh my god, you have the momos,
Mm.
the witches who live in swamps, and
Ooh.
they often steal children, and they they'll just take people. You'll never see them again.
Yeah.
So places like Florida, Louisiana, places where there's a lot of swampland, have a lot
Interesting.
of legends of people disappearing, and it's usually them. You got the Rashkaskas. I'm
Oh,
saying
the
that wrong.
I, I I've heard it pronounced as Rashaska, and it
Rashkashka.
and they
Yeah.
turn into leopards.
Yeah, they're blood drinkers, so they're the
Yeah,
vampires.
the were
Right.
like Indian were leopards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we have
Rakshasas. That's it.
yes.
Okay, we
Yes.
got it.
We got it. Um we have the Asuras who are jealous. The Maras. The Maras are like the tribe of Mara. Mara being like the devil figure in Buddhism.
Mm.
He's not really a devil. He's actually a deity in Buddhism.
The
But
Christians have this thing where
yeah.
everything they don't understand is Satan. So right.
Gotta have that disclaimer there, man. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, dude, like Jesus, it's such an amazing religion. The let me see what else. Laws, Dharmapala. Those are the guardians of the tradition. They protect the tradition, the lineage. They make sure everyone is keeping their vows. You know what I'm saying? If
Okay.
you don't keep your vows, they usually just beat you up. Like,
Okay. Okay.
or
Now,
not beat you up, but what?
where do gods like Hanuman and Ganesha and
Hmm.
Shiva and Kali
Depends.
come in? I mean, what
Depends.
level? Because you had said that there was, you said that there was hell and hungry ghosts.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think animals,
Animals,
humans,
humans, demigods,
demigods,
gods.
and gods. Okay. Would
Yeah.
that be a demigod thing or would a god thing?
Um, Ganesh, for instance, is considered a Buddha.
Okay.
Saraswati,
Okay.
for instance, is considered a Buddha, but Shiva is not, and Vishnu are not. So those are just considered the god class of beings.
Okay.
In Orthodox Vajrayana, that's what they will say. But most Hindus will tell you that Shiva is that Shakti is Yogini,
Mm-hmm.
and that Shiva is Mahakala. In Tibetan Buddhism. So they're all the same. That's the crazy part. Like I
Yeah,
used to
but it's not really crazy because I mean it's. Remember how we were talking yesterday about how we are all literally related to each other.
Mhm.
You know, from you and me back to the first amoeba that crawled out of the ocean. Like
Mhm.
we are the living beings that came out of the earth and created uh, these ideas of God or goddesses or
Yeah.
pantheons,
Yeah.
because of the need to have something external to
Mhm.
focus on. And I get it. I'm still at that point, you know.
Mhm.
But it's a weird paradox to understand that literally everything I know was created by a human being.
Yeah.
You know,
It's nuts.
like every single religion, some dude bottle fell out of the sky, hit him in the head, and he's like, "Oh, look, it's Coke Classic Jesus," right? So you have these cults that form
Mhm.
around this one person who is usually charismatic as fuck,
Mhm.
and they I think they end up coming from a place of just wanting to understand. But because human beings are the way we are, when a lot of people are going, "Wow, you're really cool. Can I have sex with you and give you lots of money?"
You're
That's
right.
apparently really difficult to turn down.
Yes.
You know?
Mhm.
Um, and it's so rare that you have examples like Jesus or Buddha who aren't drawn in by any of that. They're
Yeah.
not drawn in by the trappings of human, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's money or fashion or travel or any other thing that we do to try to make ourselves appealing so that people will like us and
Mhm.
let us belong to their group because
Mhm.
human beings are very big on the whole belonging thing,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm still a Santeria priestess. You know, my
Mhm.
mother is Yamaya, my father is Elegua, I'm a Palera, I'm a heathen. I have spoken with Odin and Freya. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it is it's a very odd dynamic to kind of exist within.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Because it
Um.
sounds like you got a little bit of that paradox going on with you too.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually study. I'm actually Sufi. I took my bayat, my shahada, and then my bayat a little bit like right after.
Okay.
So I can get initiated into a Sufi order. Um. I am currently studying Bodhi Marj, Agor Bodhi Marj, under Baba Suraram, very amazing Swedish guru,
Mm,
brilliant, big hearted, eyes like water. It's really uncanny.
wow.
And he so I'm just learning how to syncretism has always come naturally to me. I like to see
Hmm.
the commonalities between things.
Yeah.
Um so it's just I just see the commonalities. I see the ground of everything is very similar, right?
Oh
So I
yeah.
can be Sufi and know that I'm not just doing something called zikr, where I will chant a phrase or a name of Allah over and over again. I'm also chanting a mantra
Hmm.
that's, resonating, and I'm doing Golder, and like it's all really in many ways very similar, like
I think well, prayers are all conversations with the universe.
yeah, exactly.
You know, you are asking for the universe to go gently with you,
Yeah.
you know, or to open the way for you.
Yeah.
And whether that looks like firma in Palo, or whether that looks like runes, you
Mhm.
know, a rune stuffer. Um, it it all kind of gets to the same energetic place.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, and I mean, people will just tear themselves apart, like trying to reconcile the two. If that's the type of person you are, it's totally okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes it's good to focus in on one thing, and that could be where your gift is. But for
yeah.
me, it's hard to stay in one place, you know.
And I get that. I get that. There are, you know, I have a collection of paths and beings that I work with,
Hmm.
and each of them kind of fulfills a certain thing, whether I'm working with a client or whether I'm working with something in my own life. Um, and it just you just learn how to navigate it.
Yeah.
It's not something that anybody can really teach you. And I think that's hard for a lot of Western people to understand.
Yeah.
You know,
Definitely.
we want a manual, and do you have a CD, and is there a T-shirt? You know,
Audiobook.
yeah, right. You know, is it on Kindle?
Right.
so
Right.
so we as a culture we really like being spoon-fed things like children.
Yeah.
And so when stepping outside of, you know, the narrative that books have, or that people who know
Yeah.
have, because you
Yeah.
have plenty of people who'd be more than happy to tell you you're doing it wrong, that you're fucking it
Hmm.
up, that you're ruining everything, you're not adhering to tradition, and therefore you're being offensive.
Hmm.
But almost every religion is about getting to a point where you have good character,
Yeah.
where you're kind and compassionate and supportive and empathetic.
Yeah.
And it's
That's what
always
it's about.
it's always so heartbreaking for me when I see paths twist that
Hmm.
into CEO Jesus, who is
Yeah.
losing market share, you know. But it's that whole prosperity gospel,
Mhm.
And I'm sure you have that shit threaded through other paths as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
There are other Lukumi's houses that will just pow crank out initiation after initiation. Voodoo houses, literally any path can be compromised
Yeah.
for
Yep.
the sake of economic gain.
Yeah.
And if it's one thing I've learned, that shit gives you enough rope to hang yourself.
Yeah, it
And it's
does.
not pretty.
It's not.
It's not pretty when you get to the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I completely understand what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
people don't think about second and third level consequences of their actions. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I was just talking to a friend about that, or like about immortality, because his path is the path of apotheosis. So we
Mm-hmm.
were talking about immortality, and I was like, immortality has consequences. Have you considered the consequences of immortality? And he was like, yeah, I have to watch all my loved ones perish and da da da. But I want to create universes and worlds, and you know, I was like, okay, what I mean, that's a lot to govern. That's a lot to look over, and after a while, you're gonna probably end up seeing everything and being bored as shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like even Buddhas die eventually; they just disappear.
Yeah. I
Ever-
would think that at some point you just get fucking tired of it
yeah,
because there's nothing new.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But and I think for a lot of people, it sounds good. In his case, I actually think he can do it, and he's doing it for the right reasons.
Okay.
But for most people, it sounds good, and it can lead to grandiosity. It can lead
Ooh.
to narcissism, deep narcissism, and ego.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on who the person is. Like I said, I don't think he has any of those things, but that's a dangerous place to
Yeah,
go.
when you want to be god of a world, I mean, there's a whole lot of people that are doing that shit here.
Yeah.
One of them was named Jim Jones.
No. No.
But
No. It
what I
makes sense.
it
And
it does make sense for I'm guessing people who are beyond the need to feel like they're controlling.
yeah.
As long as they're not coming from a place of dominance and it's
I
a
don't think
place
it's coming from a
of
place of.
exploration.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the idea. As
Gotcha.
far as this person is concerned. So I
Yeah.
know, that's coming from an exploratory.
Mhm.
What's that? Like,
Yeah,
can I
what's
do this?
possible?
What's possible? Yeah,
Yeah.
but and while that can also be dangerous, like, yeah, I think for a lot of other people though, it can lead to a lot of ego, grandiosity. And I was there, especially when you aren't dealing with their shit, because I was doing all of that and not dealing with my shit. So I think it should be a cautionary thing, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think that we aren't taught empathetic behavior early enough.
yeah, you're right. If at all, if
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. And I mean, granted, kids nowadays seem to kind of be clear about where they are
Yeah,
mentally and emotionally.
yeah.
And I remember seeing seeing a meme where kids were like, "Do you mean that these people grow up to become dysfunctional adults and they never want to learn any different?" And I'm like, "You're new here, right?"
Right.
Like
That's crazy.
it's just like it's like putting your dick in a blender, man. It's just this is a rough place.
Right, right. It is rough. But I mean, it's like, the pressure that makes a diamond. That's so corny, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah. Well, there are different ways than enduring soul breaking trauma
hmm
to get to a point of evolution.
yeah,
And uh, I remember as we were talking yesterday, there are a lot of people that have breaks and they're
hmm
just done. And they like their consciousness goes away
hmm
and then something happens, and then they become kind of almost like a hungry ghost as a living person.
Yeah, yeah. That actually happens a lot. I was reading The Self-Possessed, which is a book that talks about Indian trance states and possession and having planets seize you because planets can take possession of you, and spirits that, oracles and their role in history. Self-Possessed is a really good book.
Did you say planet or plants?
Planted, planted. I
Gotcha,
think I
gotcha.
said that. Yeah. Okay. Um. Um. Yeah, dude. Like, it's a lot of cool mythology associated with the whole thing, and actually a really cool book. It's a Buddhist cosmology. Talks about all the different species and planets and
Hmm.
and pure lands and things like that, that are available. That's why I said, like, that's actually pretty standard when you supposedly become a Buddha. You create your own pure land, a place where you can help people attain enlightenment in the way that is best for them. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's pretty noble.
Now,
You
is
know,
that a an astral place, or is that kind of the creation of a physical place here where people can
sort of.
recover?
That
A
I
little bit
don't
of
know.
both.
That probably both. I have no idea. There in the scriptures, it's not really clear.
Hmm.
The Buddha, for instance, talks about Sukhavati, which is the Western Pure Land of Amitabha, the Buddha of limitless light.
Hmm.
Um, it's supposed to lie in the western quarter of the universe, billions of world cycles of miles away,
Hmm.
and or trillions or some. It's far. Okay,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
fucking far.
Far,
Um,
far away.
right. And in this pure land, you go there, and for all we know, maybe it is physical, but we don't have the technology to detect it, or maybe it is astral.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's so far away, we can't tell until we die and are taken there. Like, if we've lived, a good enough life, or even if we haven't lived a good enough life. The the beauty of Pure Land Buddhism is that Amitabha, the Buddha of limitless light, if you say his name with full faith 10 times, Namo Amida Buddha, if you say that 10 times with full faith,
Hmm.
he'll take you. Doesn't matter if you're a criminal, doesn't matter if you sucked your whole life. If you say that 10 times with faith, he'll take you there and train you to become a Buddha. So it's just the
Mm.
mercy inherent in Buddhism is something that really attracted it to me. You
Oh,
know,
mercy is such
attracted
a
me to it.
mercy and grace are such a
Yeah.
great qualities.
Can you imagine that? Like, okay, this dude is like a gangbanger, but I'm totally gonna let him in anyway because he said my name a few times. Like,
Well, but it's not just that. It's not like arriving at the end of your life and going, "Sorry, Jesus, I raped all those kids."
right? Oh yeah. Oh no, no,
It's
no, no.
you had mentioned that
Genuine
it was with full and perfect faith.
faith. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so if you're already at the place where you can have even a moment of perfect faith,
Yeah.
that's a truckload more than 99% of the people down here.
Yeah. So you're actually in that, even being in that place, I would say you're spiritually excellent. Like,
Yeah.
you have to be. There has to be some form of blessing, power, or spiritual excellence over you.
Well,
Um,
and we're not really that good at seeing beyond the facade that people present, at least
mhm,
until we know ourselves.
mhm,
And so I can imagine it's a little confusing for people
yep,
when someone that they perceive as a criminal or that has bad character is given an opportunity for learning or for elevation,
mhm,
that this person who has been a good person all of their life, but their reason for being a good person is because they want a cookie.
Yeah.
Like, they want that cookie of recognition or that
Yep.
cookie of insight or that cookie of information, as opposed to, I just don't want to be a dick. I don't
Yeah.
want to be a bad person to the people that are here, because we're already suffering. Why would I
Yep.
want to make it worse?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Yeah. I don't know. And there are a lot of people who say the Pure Land is not a place necessarily. It's a state of consciousness. When you reach a certain place where everything around you just looks like the Pure Land, because that's where you're vibrating at, right? Like that's what you've uncovered within yourself.
I like that idea. I like the idea of arriving somewhere and there is a point that captures your attention and your perception so entirely that everything looks brighter,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. If you listen to like the descriptions of the Pure Land, they're heavenly. Streets made of gold, grains of sand made of precious jewels, fresh water, jeweled trees, lotus flowers, pavilions, like, but the idea is not so much that the idea isn't so much that these things are external. They're all around you, you just don't see it. You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
blessing power is here. It's everywhere, but you just can't see it.
Well, a lot of us have been cut off from it.
Yes. Yes.
Western society kind of beats it out of you at a young
Yeah,
age.
after a while, yeah.
And it beats immigrants. It
Mm.
beats it out of immigrants too.
Yep.
This is a very homogenized beige. I never understood why people were like American culture. They're really, we basically, my ancestors came here. Well, actually, I came from 6 generations back on both my mom and my dad's side, Ireland.
Mm.
We
Mm.
fled the potato famine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I mean, I can kind of feel good that my ancestors didn't come here and kill the indigenous people, and but there's still that's still in our DNA.
Yeah.
Every horrible thing that has ever happened anywhere on the planet is in
Mm-hmm.
our DNA.
Yeah.
And every beautiful moment where two people realized that they could be open and understanding and hold space for each other, that is also in our DNA as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think that we focus too much on defense
Yes. I
instead of
mean, like,
openness.
and that defense, per, eh, particip- that defense causes defense. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
it's
It's a
literally
chain
a self.
reaction.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a natural. You bulk up, I'm bulk up even bigger.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's we really do jump back to primal beings when somebody says something that triggers us into a traumatic response.
mm-hmm.
Just like, what the fuck did you say? I mean,
Yeah,
it's just a leap back and you're okay. All right, we're gonna
yeah. We're
have
gonna rumble.
words.
Yeah,
But nobody teaches you that in the moment that you want to let that foot fly, you need to sit and
yeah.
just kind of be present with that fury
Mm-hmm.
and understand where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, it's an argument you had a week ago
Exactly.
or a
We
year
don't.
ago.
Yeah, we don't process. We don't digest what happens to us very often as human beings, especially in the West.
Our linear sense of processing is just not
Bullshit. Yeah,
good.
it's not. It's not.
That's another thing I think about the gene keys that's kind of helping
Mm-hmm.
is just stripping back the veneer of all of the. And I know you're from Detroit, so I'm going to make an automaker reference. You're familiar with Fordite, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of like Fordite. you have all of these layers. It's like unpeeling an onion or scraping all of those layers of paint off to get to what the core of you is. And there's all of this fluff about these external things that you pay attention to
Yes.
that are just distractions.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, Shogun is a hell of a distraction.
I heard everybody keeps saying it. I haven't tried it yet.
But we are very good at distracting the shit out of ourselves.
We are.
We're fantastic at it.
We are.
And we will fight tooth and claw against having that distraction taken away. And it even happens as kids. I remember stories of Teletubbies when they would put their babies in front of the Teletubby. They would turn the TV off and the baby lost its fucking mind. And you're like, what's happening? Maybe we should reconsider what we're showing. But I really think that it was a somatic, pleasurable experience for a baby, because you have the colors and there's the baby in the sun and Tinky Winky and blah blah. And you unplug that, it's jarring and it's traumatic. You've just unplugged that child from a serotonin boost.
Yes.
Unceremoniously.
For no reason, though.
For no reason other than it's time to go to school. I'm like, well, if it was time to go to school, you shouldn't have let them watch it. Because you created a situation for yourself where the child is now screaming because their distraction was taken. It's like taking a toy.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
I think that there are more conversations that need to be had about that.
It's crazy, man. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's just been a long journey. And I don't even know.
You when you first realized that 14, right?
Yes. 14, 15.
Now, would you say that you kind of stayed with Buddhism, or was it one of those okay kind of Buddha's here, but not in my? It's kind of like not really in the rear view, but it's not here. It's kind of
it's
parked on my shoulder for a while.
always been there. I was at one point I called myself a Buddhist Luciferian. Like it wasn't going nowhere. Couldn't nobody take the Dharma. Yeah, Luciferian. Luciferian, yeah.
Luciferian.
Like, and like couldn't nobody like detach me from the Dharma at any point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's always been there. In the forefront too. Even when I called myself a Christian, even when like it's always been there.
What about it is the primary point of comfort that it brings you?
I have no idea. It's just my life doesn't feel complete without it, I guess.
Yeah.
On some level. Yeah, that's how you know.
I get that.
If a religion doesn't touch you like that, I think you should maybe try to find another one.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Agreed. Is there anything else that you can think of that you feel you want to talk on?
No, not right now. I don't. I'm gonna come up with all this cool shit. We got to do a part 2.
All right. All right.
Chada, we need to do this. Chada, we need to do that. Like, we need to do it. But nah. I think I've said enough. I don't want to throw too many references out, and people are like, "What? What is she even talking about? What is even happening right now?" Yeah, but
are there basic tenets that are not secrets that you can speak about?
Yes. Life is suffering, right? There's it's suffering because of impermanence, right? So we're constantly chasing after things that we don't need to chase after. And it's the impermanence takes the form in many ways of old age, sickness, and death. But there's a way out of that suffering, and the way out of that suffering is eightfold noble path, which is things like right concentration, right association. Is you have to be around a certain caliber of people in order to make progress on the spiritual path.
Yeah. There you
So
go.
that's not included, but it's implied,
Mhm.
especially in earlier Buddhist thoughts. Yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be done. But yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like it's kind of like the air I breathe.
Yeah, I get that. I
Yeah.
hear that.
I think that I really wish more people in the Black community became Buddhist, or at least would listen to it, because I think we can benefit so much from it. Like,
Yeah.
in general, the emphasis on compassion, the emphasis on love, the emphasis on, interconnectedness and interbeingness, which is huge in Africa anyway, right? We
Mm.
just kind of lost Ubuntu. We just kind of lost that at some point when we came over here, because
Yeah.
the Western culture in general can be very dominance oriented, conquest oriented.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the I keep hearing that individualism is to blame,
Mm-hmm.
but in my mind, I see myself as almost part of a colony.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's almost like mycelial networks that traffic beneath the soil
Yeah.
throughout continents. It's the same thing for people,
Yeah.
and we're literally all connected. And I think that when we forget our connection to the water that sustains us, and the vegetables, the trees that give us air, and the various foods that keep us alive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at some point, there are many people who have said that once agriculture came on the scene, we were done. Oh, where'd you go? Uh oh.
Hello.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. But there are people who have said that pretty much agriculture was the downfall,
Mm-hmm.
because you had a way to create things that you could then trade,
Mm-hmm.
and then people were beholden to each other for the items that they could trade.
Mm-hmm.
Once agriculture rolled on the scene, you had people that decided that they wanted to that all of a sudden paternity mattered,
Yep.
because there are tribes where women will not know who the father of their child is,
Mm-hmm.
so that every father in the village is the father of the
Of
child,
the child. Yeah.
so everybody raises the kid.
Mm-hmm.
But in this paradigm, for the economic paradigm, you have to have ownership, because you have to have somebody inherit.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to pass your wealth on to your children,
Yeah.
and the sooner we get away from that, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
The better, the more we become an actual society that focuses on community
Mm-hmm.
instead of the nuclear family.
Mm-hmm.
I think the healthier we're going to be.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Um, community is like the backbone of any successful group.
Yeah.
That sense of belonging.
Yeah. Where you
Um.
feel safe, and
Yeah.
you are able to retain your dignity and your
Yes.
sense of belonging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are
That's really
those are
important.
necessary for humans to thrive.
They are. They are. Yeah. My phone feels so hot, dude.
Well, let's end it here.
I don't want to
Thank
catch
you.
on fire.
No, you're good, man. You're good. Thank you so much for coming on the show, the
Thank you.
podcast, this area that we're operating in.
Yeah,
And let's set up another time to talk about this.
for sure. It is not over. I really appreciate you having me.
I appreciate you greatly.
All right, bye.
All right, take care.